What if the answer to this big crisis of purpose we keep hearing about isn't something you can download from an app store? What if it's not even in a traditional classroom? What if it's in a workshop with sawdust on the floor? Well, that's the core idea we're digging into today. It's called the Tectonic School Project, a pretty ambitious proposal from Michael Sartori's book, Tenets Before Temples. The whole concept? Rebuilding society by first rebuilding men, one real, tangible skill at a time.
So that really brings us to the big question, right? What actually happens when a whole society starts to lose its sense of purpose? Michael Sartori, the author, he argues that it's not pretty. Things start to fray at the edges, and you're left with a whole generation of young men who feel totally disconnected, just adrift. So let's take a look at what that fraying actually looks like in the real world.
All right, so let's dive into Section 1, which the book calls a modern purpose crisis. And the key thing to get here is that the author isn't just talking about some vague, fuzzy feeling. He's arguing this is a real, measurable purpose vacuum with some pretty clear symptoms.
The book uses this really powerful analogy to explain it. Think about it like this. When our trust in major institutions, government, media, education, when all that starts to collapse, it's like our society's immune system just fails. Suddenly, we can't tell the difference between what's true and what's not. And that leaves everybody feeling vulnerable, afraid, and honestly, way more open to some really destructive ideas.
And you can actually see this playing out in the numbers. One of the clearest symptoms of this whole crisis is just how disengaged a lot of young men have become. I mean, look at two of the traditional pillars of community, college and church. Right now, men make up only 40% of the people there. And that's not a static number. That gap is actually getting wider.
And then there's this statistic, which the book points to as just devastating. A staggering 80% of single-parent homes are fatherless. Think about the impact of that. It creates this huge vacuum, leaving millions upon millions of boys growing up without a daily, in-person role model for what it even means to be a man, a husband, a father, or a leader in your community. And to make matters worse, it's not just the family model that's broken. The way we've traditionally passed down knowledge is collapsed, too. I'm talking about that classic master-apprentice relationship. Where an older, experienced person taught a younger one, not just a trade, but the character you needed to actually master it. That system is pretty much gone, and it's cut this incredibly important link between the generations. Okay, so things sound pretty bleak, right? But the book doesn't just spend all its time diagnosing the problem. It actually proposes a really bold solution, and that brings us right into our second section. The Tectonic School Blueprint.
So, what is the Tectonic School Project? Well, at its core, it's all about creating whole people. The goal is to stitch the physical and the spiritual back together again by connecting real, hands-on, tangible work with a much deeper sense of meaning and purpose.
And this really lays out the core contrast perfectly. On one side, you've got our modern information economy. It's abstract, it's mostly screen-based, and as the author argues, it leaves a lot of people who are good with their hands feeling kind of useless. But then, on the other side, you have the Tectonic model. It's embodied, it's tangible, it's purpose-driven. It's a world where your value is measured by what you can actually build.
And this quote really gets to the heart of the whole philosophy. The foundation must be strengthened from the smallest parts first. The loose stones must be fitted and fixed in place. Basically, the idea is you can't fix a society with some grand top-down plan. You've got to start from the ground up. You have to fix the individual loose stones first and fit them back into a solid structure. Okay, so that's the philosophy. But how does it actually work? Well, the Tectonic model is built on two main pillars. And the first one, which we're jumping into now in Section 3, is all about vocational mastery. We're talking about a return to tangible real-world skills. Now, the program is really specific. It focuses on the building trades, things like carpentry, plumbing, electrical work. And you might be asking, why those trades specifically? Well, it's because these jobs do a few things that are pretty unique. They force you to use both your mind and your body. They naturally build a sense of community on a job site. Plus, you get that incredible satisfaction of seeing what you accomplished at the end of every single day. And of course, they offer a clear path to being able to support yourself and a family.
But here's the key. Mastering a craft, learning how to swing a hammer, that's only half the battle. This whole model is about combining the hammer with the handshake. It's about pairing that technical skill with real, personal mentorship. The goal isn't just to build great things, it's to build great men.
And that idea of mentorship brings us straight to the second pillar of the whole project, building character. Really,
This is the part of the model that's designed to directly address that crisis of fatherlessness we talked about. The master craftsman in this system, he's not just your boss. He's a mentor. He's the guy who models what responsibility looks like, teaching you everything from how to manage your money to what it takes to lead a family with character and integrity.
And this whole path is designed to be like a self-sustaining engine for creating leaders. It starts with the apprentice, who's just learning the ropes. Then he becomes a journeyman, who's not only mastering his craft, but also starting to teach others. And finally, you have the master, whose main job isn't even the craft anymore. It's mentoring the next generation, making sure that this whole cycle keeps going and gets stronger over time. But the vision here is so much bigger than just one person. And that's what Section 5 is all about. Reviving homes and communities. The ultimate goal is to create this massive ripple effect that doesn't just revive individual men, but their families, and eventually their entire communities. So let's follow that ripple. Step 1 starts right here. It's one young guy, maybe someone society had kind of written off. He finds his footing. He learns a real skill, gets a sense of purpose, and with that comes a new kind of stability in his life. Okay, now for step 2. That personal stability he's found, that becomes the foundation he can build a family on. He's now equipped to be a good husband and a good father, to build the kind of strong, stable family that maybe he never had himself. And then finally, step 3. The ripple spreads out into the community. These men and their strong families, they stop being a drain on society and start becoming huge assets. They become pillars of strength in their neighborhoods, in their churches, and they create this amazing positive feedback loop that starts to heal the whole community from the inside out. When you boil it all down, the highest ambition of this whole project is to completely get rid of that modern split between our work lives and our spiritual lives. The goal is to form men who see their craft, building a wall, wiring a house, as an act of worship. Men who see raising a family as their ministry. It's about completely erasing that line we've drawn between what's sacred and what's secular.
And all of this brings us back to one final, really provocative question that's at the heart of this whole thing. The Tectonic School is basically betting everything on the answer being yes. A yes to the idea that the simple, tangible act of building a house can actually help rebuild a man's life. The only question left is, what do you think?